Learn from my mistake. Are you tired of hearing the same old advice when it comes to real estate? Do you want to learn from the biggest and baddest mistakes in the industry? Then welcome to Learn from My Mistake, the podcast that brings you real estate professionals from all over, sharing the biggest blunders and how to avoid them. I'm one of your hosts, Jake Remillard, and I'm joined by my partner, Marie Baginski. We're here to give you the inside scoop on what not to do in the real estate game. From brokers to investors, we've got it all. We're not just here to tell you about our guest failures, though. We're here to help you learn from them so you can make the right moves when it counts. So buckle up and get ready to hear some juicy stories and expert advice you won't find anywhere else. This is Learn from My Mistake. New episodes drop every week. Don't miss out. Learn from my I always forget that last one's coming. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm like going to jump right into it. And then that last one throws me off every time.
That's so funny. Because you recorded it. That's your TV voice right there. I
What's
tell
going
Jake all the
on?
time he's got a voice for radio.
Yes, but not the face. That's the ongoing joke. Hey, what is going on, guys? We are back. We actually took a little bit of time off. We have some holiday stuff going on, and then we had to get some awesome new guests in the shoot, such as Omar Lopez, our guest for today. Omar, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Jake? Glad to be here with you guys. How you doing, Marie?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
Nice.
So Omar, like we said before, we kind of prepped you. This is super laid back and chill. So just for all of our listeners, just tell them kind of how you got started in real estate. Let's start from the beginning.
Perfect. So I got started in real estate back in 2018. So you guys probably don't know about this from me, but I actually fell off of a palm tree back in 2017. I used to be in the landscaping industry. So
Wow.
I grew up in the landscaping industry with my father, and I had an accident. So that's what I used to do. I used to be a tree trimmer. Never did I know that I was going to be in real estate. And in the summer of 2017, I was up there in one of the trees. The tree broke on me. I came crashing down, and my life changed after that. So after
How
that,
far of a drop was that? Just out of curiosity, because there are some really tall palm trees around.
everybody asked the same question, so you're good. It was only like 15 feet, to be honest, because
I mean, that's high enough. Okay.
yeah, it was. The thing that made it really bad was that I fell on a brick wall, so on my butt, So if I would not have fell on that wall, I probably would have been okay. But at the same time, I probably would have still been up trimming palm trees. So
This is true.
yeah, my life took a different direction after that.
Okay.
So it was like 15 feet, and what happened was after that, I thought I was going to be an HVAC technician. I got my certificate for HVAC, and I realized also that that's not what I wanted to do. I just had a whole paradigm shift. I started reading books, and I realized that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I went down YouTube University. I started just watching a whole bunch of content. At the time, it was crypto, 2017, when crypto was taking off, drop shipping, e-commerce, and then real estate. I remember seeing Cody Sperber, Ty Lopez. Everybody's trying to sell you a program.
Yeah.
And I stumbled upon Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I had already stumbled upon Cash Flow Quadrant, the second book.
Okay.
And but I never finished the Cash Flow Quadrant when I first read it a few years prior to that. And from there, I seen real estate, and I was like, you know what? I think I could do this. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't have to create a new gadget, a new widget. And crypto was kind of confusing at the time. And I said, you know what? I could do this. It's real estate. It's been around for tens of thousands of years. It's not going anywhere. Land, they're not creating any more of it. I think I could buy houses, rent them out, and collect passive income. And from there, I just took off.
That's awesome. Okay. Tell everybody too, where is your primary market? Where do you live? Where's your primary market that you focus on?
Yeah. So I live in Miami. I used to live in California, Southern California, Palm Springs. That was my primary market in Southern California. And once I came down here to Miami, we started doing PPC nationwide. So we were nationwide, but then we started honing down to maybe top 25 states. Right now, we're in the top 8 to 12 states. They're like the Sunbelt states from California, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, the Carolinas. But our vision for this coming year is that 1 year from now, we're only going to be in Florida. So that's going to be our core market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an interesting shift. So, and tell us, for everybody listening now, are you primary wholesaling?
So our main focus right now is wholesaling and novation. We have done fix and flips. We do own some rental properties, but for this coming year, only wholesale and novation.
Nice. Okay, so explain maybe to some of our listeners that don't know what a novation is, explain what that is.
Yeah, so I think the word novation is a term that's tossed around loosely. If you're really trying to get technical, it's when you're replacing one contract with another contract. I guess an easy way of explaining it is really when you're going to sell to a conventional buyer. So instead of putting a property under contract at a wholesale price where it's a cash offer and you're going to sell the contract to an investor, where an investor still has to get a deep discount, you can offer a little bit more because you'll be able to sell it to a conventional buyer who is not really worried about getting it at a steep discount because it's going to be for themselves. So from there, you're able to just have an extra exit strategy where you put the property on the MLS. Sorry about that. You're able to put the property on the MLS and sell it to a conventional buyer that's going to use FHA, conventional financing, VA loans, whatever it is. So it's just another extra strategy to sell to people with conventional financing.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
So, okay, now you read all these books, you did YouTube University. What was like the step from there? Like, did you like join a group? Did you start finding partners? Did you just start doing deals on your own? Like what's the threshold from, I feel like there's so many people out there that are YouTube University, right? So like, what was the step that got you past YouTube University to actually doing deals?
Yeah. So what happened was I bought a little program, I think, with Ty Lopez, and from there, Cole Hatter was on that program. Cole Hatter was talking about RIAs, the local real estate investment groups. And there was actually 2 groups that were nearby from me, one actually in my town and another one that was about an hour away. The one that was an hour away, I think, was in a few days. It was in Riverside, California. So I drove there and I just started networking. I remember being around some guys that were talking about apartment deals. And I remember just like watching them and just visualizing, knowing to myself that I've never done a deal, but I knew that I was going to be having the same conversations with them down the line. So from there, went to that meeting. Then I attended the one that was in my local area, just started networking some more. From there, they started talking about other meetings where you now had to pay maybe like $500 for the weekend. And just started really surrounding myself around with all these people, continuing to listen to podcasts, continuing to read books, and everything was just kind of clicking together. I remember the way that I like to describe this is just putting the pieces of the puzzle together because I was still a little confused. I still didn't really know maybe what was it exactly that I needed to do. I remember just still being a little confused, right? Like what? Wholesale properties? Like, wait, why would anybody want to sell their house at a discount? Oh, okay, that's why. Oh, foreclosures, all right. Well then, how am I gonna talk to them? And all these pieces of the puzzle really just started clicking in. And then finally I was like, okay, that's enough, like enough education. After like maybe 3-4 months of education, all the education sounded very similar. And I said, okay, now it's time to take action. So now what am I going to do? All right. So am I going to cold call? Am I going to door knock? And for me, it was driving for dollars at the time. So I just got in my car. Dollars. Gosh, let me. probably prepared for this. I do apologize.
That's it. You got to put the phone on do not disturb, bro.
Right, those are the deals, though. Those are the deals
go.
flowing in.
Yeah, it is actually. It's some PPC Collins. Okay,
Oh,
that should not happen.
You got a team that can handle that, though, right, Omar?
Yeah, they're over there. They're over there.
Okay,
Team,
good.
yeah, there you go. Delegate.
So yeah, that's how it happened for me. Just started driving for dollars. Picking up. I remember there was a period where even before I started driving for dollars, I would call just regular houses, like or houses that had equity but with no filters. I remember calling like $1 million houses, leaving ringless voicemails and all that stuff. Just like saying, "Hey, do you want to sell your house?" But with no clear direction. I remember telling my mom too, like, I'm going to call these people and I'm going to ask them if they want to sell their house. And my mom was like, "You're just going to call those people and just ask them like that?" I was like, "I'm just going to call them. I'm just going to ask them to see if they want to sell me their house at a discount." And it was people that were not even in distress. It was just like, regular houses, right? Yeah.
So for that, right, real quick to go back, like for anybody that doesn't know that maybe listening to this that's getting started, when he's saying he's calling these people with no filters, there's ways that you can target different lists. So you could target people with like, high equity but that are distressed, or people that have, maybe absentee owners don't live there. You just went and called like a phone book style, like I'm going to call these people at these addresses without knowing if they were in any type of situation.
Exactly. I didn't know at the time whether like what kind of filters, or I probably didn't even know that there were filters.
Yeah.
Just trying to target these people that were more in distress, either vacant houses, foreclosure, whatever it was. The only thing I probably knew was that they had high equity, so I just started calling these people. And then after, like, looking back, I was like, wow, I was never going to get a deal from them.
Okay,
so that's important. I just want to say, like, taking the action and not knowing what you're going to say. And even when you look back and you're like, wow, I probably wasted time or, energy, whatever effort, like that was a learning curve for you, right? Like you needed to take that step to start. And I think so many people, they wait for like the perfect opportunity, or they think they need to know everything before they get started. And it's like, no, you just need to get started.
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, aside from the brick wall and the palm tree, right? I haven't really heard a mistake yet. Everything you're talking about is like all that stuff is great. Like those are wins, taking action and stuff. So let's kind of get into in the theme of the show here. Let's fast forward a little bit. So you got started, some of these strategies and everything. What were some of these mistakes that you made early on after you kind of started spinning the wheel and getting some traction? What were some of those?
Yeah, so there's obviously a ton of mistakes that we make, all the time to this day, right?
Of course.
I think that our success is really just going to be a foundation of failures. And I
like
think
that.
looking back, yeah. I think looking back, really one of the biggest mistakes that I did was not tracking my numbers, not tracking how much money was coming in and how much money was leaving. I remember just wheeling and dealing, just doing deals and having money coming in through my bank account and cutting checks, paying contractors, whatever it was, but really not, or just having things tracked maybe like on a notebook, right? Or just kind of by memory or on your phone, right? And just having to go back to do your taxes and, sifting through all of the, through the different categories, just like trying to remember, like, oh, what was that for? Gosh, I don't even know what that was for. Oh yeah, I think that was for that, I don't even know, right? And so that was all really a big mistake, and it really bit me in the ass, like maybe a year and a half ago, where we were just spending money on marketing, spending money on this, spending money on that. And next thing you know, your bank account is really going down. And at the time when the interest rates had gone up, I had just moved to Miami. I had just got an office and just trying to grow a team and all that. I remember there was a period where there wasn't that much deal flow and there was just so much money leaving. And I'm just kind of thinking to myself, like, where's all the money going, right? And so then just being able to, like, now our QuickBooks is really tracked like religiously every single day. We have very clean profit and loss reports, balance sheets. We know exactly who the vendor is, where the money came in from, who it came in from, what the category is, and all the way down to the property. So like we know exactly how much we're spending on every single property, what the category is for, and who the vendor was. So now we have I can tell you exactly how much we spent on one property, whether we spent too much, how profitable was it compared to the other property when, a couple of years back, like everything was a mess in terms of the numbers. So really just having your numbers tracked, and it goes back to like maybe having your KPIs tracked. There's several KPIs. You can track a million things, right? And there's going to be a couple that are really important. But for me, it was really tracking the numbers. So I remember everybody used to talk in the industry about KPIs. KPIs this, KPIs that, KPIs. And your profit and loss expenses, it is a KPI. So, but I just remember just hearing that word KPI, and it's like, like I'll figure that out later, right? I'll figure that out later. I don't really care. I'm just hustling, right? But if anybody's out there listening, I'll just say, listen, if you hear that word KPI, like, it's important, go and take action, right? That's the most important thing. Don't get caught up in the KPIs and the small stuff, but just know that stuff is really going to come back and bite you in the butt if you don't start tracking it early on, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, was that when you, like, your introduction to boardroom, was that kind of like Kent's harping on KPIs that got you hyper focused on it, or was it out of like just necessity because of the loss of the cash flow?
It's a great point that you bring it up, because I worked one-on-one with Ken Clothier, and Ken Clothier, like when I went to his office, like he really hammered it down. We did the day in office, and I remember like hardly having anything tracked. And so, looking back, like it was, it might have seemed a little embarrassing, right? Where I don't really have this stuff tracked, but honestly, that's why I hired him, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
So that he can drill it into me. That's why we went to his office, and he just really broke everything down. And he said, all right, you need to grab all this stuff. And so we just went on a little brainstorm. And after that, it was a paradigm shift. Like we were already starting to track some stuff, but after that, he said, hey, like business is a numbers game, right? And it really is. So I just said, you know what? Like I need to track all this shit. So just being in his one-on-one coaching, and also being part of the boardroom, and just knowing like now our KPIs are super dialed in, that, for example, on this last boardroom presentation, like I didn't even go over my KPIs, know how it's on the slides. Like I didn't even think about that. Like I don't care about that. Like I had a different issue, and I got straight into that issue because of my KPIs. I know that stuff. Like don't ask me about that. I figured that out. Like I need to figure out more about how to step out of the closer role, and like accountability, and like stepping into like integrator visionary role. That was my issue this time. KPIs, like I like to think we got them down. There's always a work in progress with that, right? But it's really not an issue as much as it was before.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I feel like there's so much that's part of the journey that I think sometimes when people are newer and they're starting out, they're hearing a lot of these terms, and that is what gives them like the analysis paralysis, and they don't want to get started because they're like, wait a minute, he just said KPIs, but now he's saying, integrator, getting out of the closer role, whatever, right? Like, I feel like there's so much information, but at the end of the day, everyone needs to just get started and take whatever the right step is for them. So I'm curious, Omar, when you started, were you doing this alone? Did you have a partner? Like, what did that side of the business look like? Because I know you have a team now, so I want to hear on how, like, from you starting, like, driving for dollars to now you've built a team and have an office.
Great question. So I did get started completely by myself from 2018, 2019. 2020 all the way up till about 2021. I was by myself, and at the end of 2021 my wife quit her job. So I told her, you know what, like let's do this together. I said, you're probably not going to get that far working that W-2 job. Let's just create our own life, create your own schedule. So she ended up quitting her job at the end of 2021, and so that was like maybe 3 years by myself. And then from there, she's slowly started helping me out for all of 2022. And then in the beginning of 2022 was when I also started hiring like VAs. I remember going to a mastermind. Oh, check this out. You guys probably want to hear this. Um, I went to this mastermind in the end of 2021. It's with Chris Rude.
Mhm.
You've probably heard of him.
Mhm.
Yeah, Chris Rude. So I remember going to his mastermind. I paid 5K for the mastermind. At the time, it seemed like, a good bit of money for me for like a mastermind.
Yeah.
And I remember prior to that, it's at the end of 2021. We're talking about 2 years ago, literally. Um,
Yeah. Right.
I was doing my goals, and because I'm pretty big on goal setting too, I get, in my own thoughts with the journal, start setting my goals and everything for the year. And then I try to revisit those goals at least once a month, if not every quarter, write them down, internalize them, visualize them and everything. And I remember my goal required everything like just by myself, me doing everything by myself.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna drive for dollars more. I'm gonna cold call more." I was like, "I'm gonna drive maybe for 3-4 hours, every day. I'm gonna get on the phone when I come back. I'm gonna be on the phone for like another 3-4 hours. Yeah, I'll be able to. I'll be able to do
That's
this. I'll be able to do that. You know what? I might hire like." I might hire like one driver or two drivers, and we'll do that, and I'll make all the calls myself. So I remember, going to Chris Ruth's mastermind, and while I was over there, I met a bunch of big players like Nick Perry for the first time. I met Mike Martinez. And I remember meeting this other guy named Ray Aboud who rolled up in a Ferrari. There was actually this other guy that was in the solar industry. Forgot his
Mhm.
name, but he bought a jet while he was there. I remember Nick
Nice.
Perry. Yeah, he bought a jet. Like I'm in a mastermind where somebody just bought a jet that same day. Like they
Right.
dropped over $1 million, and Nick Perry dropped like 280K on a Ferrari at the time. Like he showed me the wire. I thought he bought a house. And he's like, yeah, no, I just bought a Ferrari. And I'm like, holy fucking shit. I'm like, I'm in the right room, right? I'm in the right room.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
What I took from it was I remember like Mike Martinez told me, and he's like, you know what? He's like, you're never gonna scale like that. You're never gonna scale like that just being a one man team. He's like,
Mhm.
you need a team. We have like 20 cold callers, and we're doing X amount a month, and this and this and that. Boom, just restructured everything for me. And I remember going back home on the plane ride. It was like one of the most uncomfortable plane rides that I've ever been in my life, aside from when I was going back to California when I had just got my place in Miami, knowing that I was going to come back. That was pretty uncomfortable too.
Yeah. Right.
So I remember I was like, you know what? I got to reset my goals. Like I can't do this by myself. I'm never going to, scale to the level that I want to. So I went back, I crossed off all my goals, and I set new ones. Now I'm trying to think and plan like, all right, how many cold callers do I need for this? I need like a couple of VAs. I need a closer. Like I can't be like closing all the time. And from there in the beginning of 2022 was when I started hiring some VAs and all that. And then I came to Miami in the summer of 2022. I hired a closer at the time. Then I hired my disposition manager. Then we got our office and all that. Then got a couple other closers. I ended up hiring like a bunch of VAs that were completely unnecessary at the time.
Yeah.
It kind of went hand in hand with like not tracking the numbers. Like at the time,
Yep.
like I
Right.
was thinking like, oh yeah, let's hire another VA. Like let's get ready, like to scale. Yeah, we're gonna need these people, right? We're gonna
Yeah.
need them.
Oh yeah.
Let's start hiring them, right? And at the time, since we weren't really tracking our numbers as well, it's like we realized we didn't even need them or how much we were even spending on like hiring all these people, right? So
Right.
that's kind of goes to the mistake. And finally, right now we're a team of 7,
Okay.
and so that's kind of the journey from like the beginning of 2022 to now. We're looking to hire another closer, but now we're trying to stay lean and mean, right? Just trying to make sure that everybody just is operating at their maximum capacity at the current level, before we start hiring other people. So that was my transition from like being a one man band to now.
So I'm curious, hearing all that. Like, first of all, congratulations. It's impressive to hear, especially that you went so long being a solopreneur, doing all of that, and then it sounds like over
the course of the last like year and a half, things have really kind of scaled for you, or not for you, but as part of what you did for yourself. So now you said you have a team of 7, you're hiring another closer. You mentioned dispositions manager. Do you have multiple people working dispositions to move those deals for you, or are you still just operating with one dispositions manager to all of your closers?
We just have one disposition manager right now. We only have 2 closers right now, so he could pretty much handle that stuff. And he's solid. He's a rock star. He's actually like my right hand man. His name is Stefan, and he just naturally leads. He naturally just kind of takes control of the situation. He's actually the guy that has been holding me accountable for traction. We're now implementing traction. In the beginning, we kind of read the book together, and I remember we were going to start self-implementing. No, actually, we were reading it, and then we were getting towards the end. And I remember like the hustler mentality of me was like, oh, you know what, Stefan, like we need to put more deals on the board. Like we can't be doing traction right now. Like we just got to put more deals on the board, right? Let's just hustle. And I remember going to Austin for boardroom, and everybody was talking about it, right? Like, oh, traction. And then I was like, oh man, I was like, Stefan, you win, bro. You win. We're gonna do traction. And
bro, it's on my desk. Okay, we use it all the time. That's how important it is.
Front row it's like in all the books.
It's like a encyclopedia. Like you have to go back and reference it. It's not like pick it up and read it once and you're done.
Yeah, of course. And it was actually one of my goals this year. Everything happens like I'm a big believer that when you set your goals and you're very intentional about them, like they're gonna happen, right? So it just happened. It was one of my goals in the beginning of the year that we're like implementing traction. And even though like I tried pushing away from it, like now we're fully implementing it. We devote 1 hour every day for like the past like few months since Austin, and we have our weekly 10 meetings. We have our issues, our to-dos. Tomorrow we're actually gonna have our annual meeting all day. We're not gonna like make any calls or anything like that. We already have our schedule, what it looks like, what we're gonna go over and everything. We're already interviewing for a couple implementers to see if we can have an implementer come in. We also started interviewing with Sharper Solutions because we heard that Sharper Solutions is also another operating system like Traction that is good. So Stefan, going back to what I was talking about, he's our dispo guy. He's our right hand man, and he's been holding me accountable with like all the structure that we've been kind of slowly integrating because I'm just like I'm very fast, right? I just want to go. I just want to push. I just want to run through a wall. And he's like, you know what? Like, instead of running through that wall, let me just like open the door. Let me go on this side. Let me find out like the best way to get there. Like, if I need you to push through that wall, we will. But he's like more logical and systems type of guy, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. Chantel Beck in the boardroom is an implementer for Traction EOS. So if you need somebody to come in and do all that with you, I would definitely say reach out to Chantel Beck. She's
already did. We had an interview with her last week.
Good.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So now, like nowadays, I want to hear about like what types of mistakes do you still have? Like, what are some of the issues or mistakes that you see in the business? You've been doing it now for 5 years. You've built a team of 7. What are the issues or mistakes right now?
Let's see. I think for me personally, it might be some of the things that like have been coming up that are kind of being addressed now is like making sure that we're doing more trainings like on underwriting and stuff like for acquisitions. That was one of the issues that came up where we were locking up contracts that did not have good underwriting. So just having more team trainings in the morning, it's very easy to just kind of like set a schedule, not really adhere to it, but we're doing a way better job now sticking to that schedule, doing more trainings in the morning. So like for acquisitions, what I learned is that, we're no different than an athlete, right? An athlete trains every single day, and that's why they're the best. So for acquisitions, it's no different. Like, we're playing a sport, and the more that we train on it, the better that we're going to get at it. Like when we're on the phone with the underwriting, all that stuff. So making sure that you study sales. There's a couple of good books out there that we started reading, like Start With No. Can't teach a kid to ride a bicycle at a seminar. Just implementing all that.
Yep.
So just ongoing training for the underwriting is like some of the mistakes that we've done in the past, just not even that long ago, that we're doing more now to try to make sure that we just improve and train every day.
Yeah. And I would think, like, if you're talking about a mistake, that comes from like losing too many contracts, right? Like you start noticing like we're not able to perform, right? Or we got to go back and renegotiate. So were those like the issues that were coming up for you to realize that you had an underwriting issue?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Just, locking up the contract and then realizing later, like, what, it wasn't even a good contract to begin with. So one of the things that I'm doing now as kind of like the manager of the acquisition team is I'm making sure that I'm really in there with them and approving the deal and making sure that the numbers are good to give them the confidence to lock it up before we actually even lock it up to pass it to dispo. So we kind of let the acquisition guys kind of give their own judgment about what the underwriting was, and as a result, they'll lock it up at a higher number than it should be at, and then we have to deal with it later for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, those renegotiation calls are spicy.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. I won't keep you here for much longer, but I have another question related to that as far as like underwriting now. Do you let your closers do the underwriting, or do you have someone within the team that like that's their primary job is underwriting, or just curious how you guys handle that?
So we used to let them do all their own underwriting. Now I went to Eric Klein's mastermind recently.
Yeah.
And that was one of my big takeaways at his mastermind is that they're doing extremely well. And he says that he contributes a lot of that to him really being in the business still as the underwriter. So we used to have like a big debate with like my acquisition guys. Like they used to say like, oh, we don't really want to underwrite. We want to be on the phone. We just want to lock up contracts. Like we need an underwriter, this and that. But then I also am part of Nick Perry's program, and all their acquisition guys underwrite their own deals.
Interesting.
And so I said, you know what? Like I'm really big on Nick Perry's model, so that I can, I'm trying to copy my model like theirs. So then I said, you know what we're going to do is we're going to do daily underwriting training, which we do every single day. Daily, we do half an hours. In the morning, right when we get in here, we do a drill, give us an address, and we all just kind of like share feedback with each other, come up with a final ARV, final MAO, the same thing for novation, MAO for novation. So we do that every single day so that they can continuously get better. But at the same time, I'm still in there every day during normal work hours, underwriting myself. Like if they need backup, like he'll say, hey, back me up. So I get on there and boom, boom, boom. I'll let them know, all right, hop on the next one, right? And that way I can kind of help them underwrite. But since we're implementing daily underwriting training in the morning, they still know how to underwrite the property themselves if they have to, or have a very good idea on how to do it. So it's an emphasis on having them, empowering them to do their underwriting. But at the same time, it's still getting approved by me, and sometimes even Stefan, but primarily me, so that I can make sure that we just kind of like double check the numbers and make sure that they're confident going into the negotiation.
Yeah, I love that. It's like checks and balances, right? It's like somebody needs to check that. It can't just be the closer going in. So yeah, Jake, do you have any last questions for Omar?
Yeah, so kind of the common theme I tend to ask people is, well, first and foremost, I appreciate you, opening up and telling people about your mistakes, right? It's always easy as an entrepreneur to talk about all the awesome things that we have going on, but kind of peeling back the layers of the onion, if you will, and showing people what's actually happening behind some scenes is not something that everybody always does. So thank you for that. I would ask, just kind of on a final note, like what maybe what are some educational pieces? You mentioned some books early on. What are some things that you're into right now that are helping you get to the next level as far as education? What books are you reading? Things like that.
Yeah. So right now, that book, Start With No, it's really been a paradigm shift for us because it's a different psychology to selling. We're also reading the Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bicycle at a Seminar. John Martinez. John Martinez is also in a similar psychology where in sales, if you kind of allow the seller to say no, right? Sometimes as salespeople, we want to convince the homeowner to sell the property, and we're just looking for the yes, right? We're looking for the yes. You know what? Hey, listen, just sign right here on the dotted line, XYZ. But a lot of what we're doing now is like, hey, listen, like, feel free to tell me no if this actually like doesn't work for you. My old self used to be like, oh man, like, how am I like giving this person permission to say no? But when you allow them to say no, it just kind of brings their guard down, and it shows that you're not needy. A lot of us as salespeople, we might be needy. We're looking for the sale, right? We think, oh my God, I'm going to make 20-30K on this deal. Like, oh, am I going to buy the Beamer or the Benzo, So Start With No. David Sandler, Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike, and John Martinez is some of the great content that we're, implementing every single day right here to train our acquisition guys.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Omar. Thank you.
Yeah. And so, Omar, before we close out, tell everybody, how do they get in touch with you? How do they sell a home to you? How do they do business with you? Where can people find you at?
So they can reach me right here at the Omar Lopez. That's my Instagram right there at _Omar Lopez. That's directly to my IG. Send me a message, and we can network. Jump on a call if you have a deal that you need help with JVing. Send me the details right there. We'll send it to our dispo guy, run the numbers, and we'll get the deal sold for you.
Sweet. Awesome. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for being our guest. And I guess anything else, like if you were to give somebody one piece of advice, what would you give them? Close us out with something good.
I would say educate yourself. Honestly, educate yourself, because the more education that you have mentally, the more that you're able to break your limiting beliefs. We all have a certain paradigm in our head, and it just comes from growing up, from your environment, from your parents, your friends, your teachers, everything. So the more you educate yourself, the more that you realize that there's way more out there that you did not know. So if anybody's out there, take action. But most importantly, if you don't really know what to do, just educate yourself. And then from there, you'll figure it out, and then you'll start implementing.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again, Omar. Peace out, guys.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on.